Who You Are When No One's Looking. That's the title of the book that I chose to present to you this month. It's a book that I read several years ago, and it actually transformed the way that I thought about leadership and the way that I thought about character. The title actually says Who You Are When No One's Looking, but for some reason every time I read it, it's like, who are you when no one's looking? It's almost like a question pops out of that. Just as I look at it. The author is B.L.A.S.T, well-known pastor of Willow Creek Church, and the title speaks of integrity and character. The little line that's underneath says, choosing consistency and resisting compromise. And I find that to be a really catchy slogan, especially when you're talking about leadership and about us being the next generation that's going to lead the people of God. And so this book, I reread it just as I felt that it would be something that would be worthwhile to share with all of you. And as I read it, I felt as though the 10 points that he highlights in this book would be really important to go over. So there are 10 things that B.L.A.S.T speaks about that give light to the who you are when no one's looking. And these 10 points are something that I really feel as though we need to pay more attention to as Christian leaders. And when Shannon had put this challenge out to, bring something to the B.L.A.S.T members that would be beneficial for us as we go into ministry, I felt like this book was going to be something that could highlight some of those really important points, the things that sometimes we probably don't think about, or we think are so simple that we overlook them. So I'm going to go through those 10 points and just highlight them, but obviously my recommendation would be to read the book, get it, Who You Are When No One's Looking by B.L.A.S.T, because it is it's a good read. It's worth reading. So here we go. The first of these 10 traits are character. Character is the first important aspect to look at when we're talking about leadership. Although character is not actually mentioned in the Bible, at least not in the translation of the Bible that I have, it is something that's manifest in the lives of many of the biblical characters that we see in the life of David, in the life of Paul, in the life of Christ. Character is basically who you are when no one's looking. It's the essential part of your being that defines you, really. I know as a youth pastor, my husband and I lead so many young people through programs at our home church, and character is something that I really find that young people can see through. It's something that you can't fool people with, and B.L.A.S.T really speaks highly of making sure that your character is congruent with your calling, and making sure that your character is speaking of you in a manner that you would want it to. So secondly, so the first point was character, the second is courage. Courage meaning the willingness to face your fears. Lisa Bouvier, early well-known author and speaker and a mentor of mine, she actually says this awesome phrase that I love. It says, when you face your fear, you become fearless. And this book highlights how important it is to have courage and to face those fears and those giants in our lives, because they are the things that are going to build our character. Those are the mountains that we're going to climb, and as a result of climbing those mountains and having the courage to get to the top, we'll be able to have that much more of our story built up, and that much more we'll be able to glorify the Lord through our lives. So courage is really important. There's another interesting part that he talked about, and he said that it's important that we don't compromise our calling or the thing that God's called us to be because maybe it's not socially acceptable, or it doesn't look that good, or just those stereotypes, even in Christian ministry that we get. You want to be an author, you want to be a speaker. a lot of times we need to question our motives as to why we want to do those things. I'm not saying it's bad to do them one way or the other. I'm just saying that it's very important, and Bill Hybels says this in the book as well, to make sure that we're always checking our motives. And he says to have courage to just trust that whatever God puts in front of us, we need to actually follow that and to face it regardless of whether we think it's acceptable or if people like it or not. I heard this quote one time that said that, how did it go? Yeah, don't stoop to be a king when you're called to be a servant. And I remember hearing that the first time, and I'm like, that's kind of a strange thought. But as I ponder that more, I really realize how important it is to take seriously whatever the Lord's called you to be, whether it is a king or whether it is a servant. It's important that we're just following what He's called us to be. The third point that Bill Hybels talks about here is discipline. Now this is sometimes a hard thing for us as leaders, because our lives are very busy. Our lives are very full of ministry and pouring out, and sometimes we just, we get home at the end of the day and it's like, oh, I just want to veg and I don't want to do anything. And you don't want to be disciplined to eat properly. You don't want to be disciplined to exercise regularly. You don't want to be disciplined to do whatever it is that you need to be disciplined in. And he really challenged in the book to be people who are disciplined in every aspect of our lives. I'm not talking about rigorous, strict scheduling or anything. I'm talking about just having a lifestyle that exudes discipline, spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally. It's really important to have that balance, because that balance is what carries you as a leader. The fourth area that he touched on was vision. He said that, he actually asked the question, do you have carnal eyes or spiritual eyes? Are you seeing things through your own eyes and your own perspective and your own lenses, or are you able to see through the Lord's eyes? Are you able to see the things that He has set before you? It's so important to have vision for the ministries that God's birthed within us, and simply just for the day-to-day life that we live. Are we following that vision? Is everything that we're doing taking us to a place where we're getting closer and closer to the calling that God's placed before us? Whether that's, if you're writing a book, are you taking those steps each day, like Shannon was saying, to jot something down, or take some time every morning to spend time writing, or whatever it is? Every baby step is going to eventually take you towards your ultimate goal. He highlighted how important that was. The fifth area that he said was endurance. Do you keep going? Do you keep going when things get hard? Do you persevere and press through? Do you have endurance to continue this race that the Lord set before you? I'm a I was going to say marathon runner, but I run half marathon, so it's about 21 kilometers. Definitely not anywhere near a full marathon, but you need endurance to run these races. You need to train hard so that you're not dying halfway through the race because your body's not used to it. And so for me, I go on training schedules before, probably 8 to 16 weeks before my race, to prepare myself to run the full distance. And Bill Hybels is talking about that same thing, how we need to prepare ourselves and every day be training so that we have the endurance we need to get to the place that God's called us.